I'm just, I'm thankful. I'm grateful. I'm grateful for a couple of things to start off with. I'm grateful for all the animals that I get to see on my path, like deer crossing the road in the early morning, and squirrels chasing on the ground while robins, you know, do the thing that early birds do. Especially with wet ground today, I think it's a really springtime day with a wet morning, and then we're gonna just like transition throughout the rest of the day depending on what's gonna happen. Um, I am also thankful for the power of observation. Um, the ability to, it's not just see, but observe, like when you observe, like, look at this deer just sitting right there. Look at that. I've never been this close to a deer before. What a wonderful experience. Yes, so just the beauty of observation. Like, as soon as I turned out the path and came down, I saw something cross the road. And I was like, okay, it's big, it's brown, I can't fully see it, but it's probably a deer. What else would it be back here? Um, and then I saw another, and then to just find one of them just sitting that close, like the power of observation. It's not just seeing something, but it's taking the information that was received in whatever medium or fashion it is, like if it's the eyes, the ears, the sound, all the ways that sensation gets to us, and then using that to apply an assumption, but an educated and estimated assumption. So I feel like having the power of observation is such a great skill to have, to hone. And I think that, like everything else, it is a skill, so it takes practice to sort of become observant. And I think, though, if you do become very observant, you can, honestly, what it does is it makes you want to ask more questions. That's what real observation does. It doesn't get you answers, it gets you more questions that lead to more observations. And we call that chain of observation to questioning, to acting, to questioning, to observing. We do that chain cycle. That's called curiosity. To be curious is to make an observation, then to question, and then to act on it. We also called that the scientific method. Like the series of hypotheses. They just put it in different, fancier terms. But it's the same concept at the base level, if we could strip it down to its base level of, you know, I want to know something about this. I see this thing. I want to know about this thing. And now that I know about this thing, I want to do something either with the knowledge I have or about the knowledge that I've achieved. And I think that really puts into context why I've appreciated taking a year's worth of anthropology courses so far. Over the past calendar year, I have been a non-degree student, which is, if you have the ability to do it, a great opportunity if you want some short-term academic experience to just be a non-degree student. Like, you could take one class, it gives you access to like student benefits, which depending on what campus you're on could be a lot. Like, I was able to have access to a media lab where I could even produce music and play instruments, could rent out cameras, spaces. I got to do some creative projects there as well. So, non-degree student, even though it may seem like it's not a real degree, like we always talk about school from like degree point of view, but it's like, no, we can go to school to just take some classes to also broaden our knowledge. So with anthropology, what I've come to learn is how heavily it relies on a keen sense of observation. It actively calls the person doing the anthropolizing, if that's even a word, to be as present as possible, to be one with the space and the group and the understanding and the culture that they are observing. And being present looks like many different things now. Back in the day, it used to be like, we go into your space and we just document it that way. But now it can be done digitally. It can be done, with others in project and collaboration. So it doesn't have to be a singular experience the whole way through. With that, I'm also thankful to be wrapping up another semester and getting a 4.0 amidst working, housing issues, art residencies as well. So just some thanks right off the bat as we prepare for the full throes of spring, I'd like to say, coming in hot. So what's been current, and what could I blabber on about for a few minutes? First off, I'm gonna geek out for a bit, but I promise that I'll go somewhere with this. I really appreciate open world games. If done well. Not every game needs to be an open world game. But there are some, especially when the journey is long. Like, I'm playing Elden Ring again. I'm going for a platinum this time. Trophy, which, if you're unfamiliar, a platinum is to complete a series of achievements and objectives that the game developers kind of consider integral to the best complete gaming experience for said game. The only other games I've ever platinumed are Skyrim and Bloodborne, and Skyrim on survival mode was a whole journey. And I think what I'm going at is, when I play these games, since the journey is so immersive in the character that I'm creating and building, and putting, like, I think I'm at 70 hours and I'm about to wrap up the game. Like, I could do the DLC, but I could also just finish the game today if I wanted. Over those 70 hours, those have been split also in my real life. So I've always thought I've felt often that with gaming like this, it matches up very well at points in life where I also need like an internal dive. And what methods of, like, I guess, recovery can we, explore when it comes to like downtime and screens and gaming? I just think, like, after doing a residency for 6 weeks and being very like in the community almost every day, like at least 3 days a week, including weekends. Being in that kind of space for so long, and then having the opportunity to then come back to something like Elden Ring, which is, a game that's gonna require a lot of intentionality and focus and like consistency. You don't become the Elden Lord by being inconsistent, okay? So as I wrap it up, and the other thing I want to say about the game, which is very fascinating to me, is how traditionally whenever I play From Software games, I'm hardcore melee. Like, I'm in your face. It's an up close, nasty brawl. And I've always really done that. Like, that's been my game plan: dodge, parry, attack. But this go round, I decided, because there's a special ending that I had to get in order to get platinum, I was like, you know what? I might make a character that would fit into this kind of role. And that character was I like to call it a moon, I'd say an astrologer. Yeah, I'm playing an astrologer, an astrological like swords wielder. So playing the game with those spells and that kind of approach has been so different than a melee build. And what I was coming to say was very fascinating is how, based on items and gameplay and stats, you can create a completely different gaming experience in the same game. I've played Elden Ring I've beaten it twice, maybe done halfway through. So I've been like, this is my 3.5, I'd say, Elden Ring 3.5. Oh, they came and cut down some brush. Wow. Trimming the hedges, I get it. So with that, it's like, okay, I got a good understanding of how this game goes, and now I've been able to play the same game, completely different style, completely different approach. Fascinating stuff. So that's that. I still been having some big musings on the concept of how infrastructures, whether physical or digital, how those have an impact on the social culture that exists within them or around them, or is necessarily like a social infrastructure modernity. If I were to quote, I believe that was Collier from Post-Soviet Social. But yeah, like, how is it that, let's say I have a flat wooden board and I drill 5 holes in it. 4 of them are squares, 1 of them's a triangle. So the physical infrastructure says that this is a space that 4 squares and a triangle can go. If there is a circle, will the circle be able to fit? Well, that's a tricky question. The circle could maybe fit inside the square depending on the dimensions. But unlike the square and the triangle hole drilled into it, the circle does not have a space designed for the circle. The circle is fitting in to a space's role instead, or a square's role. And that might make a square feel a certain way. It's getting so meta. But anyways, going back to it, is how how is it that the things we construct and manufacture and maintain, how do these also give way to culture creation, which also includes the contesting of that culture? Like, what can we give to make that happen? Oh, I hear the geese. So, and then how can the culture that exists within the inside make decisions that will be able to alter the physical infrastructure, so that the physical infrastructure now represents what the culture on the inside represents? There's a tension there, and there's something to be explored more within that tension, especially when you take that lens to digital scapes and not just physical infrastructure, but like, how do apps and services and platforms, like, based on their coding and their programming, how do those, even things like that, like, what's the ethics of, like, I guess, programming and coding? Like, do people think about the culture that's going to be created when they build these devices, or do they just build them and then let the culture build itself, and then will, you know, curb it with restrictions, and these restrictions instead are called terms and conditions. It's wild. It's wild where we could go with that. So there's something there. And I'm also big thinking on writing an essay about, I think, like, reflections on the manosphere. I don't know yet, but there's some working ideas in my head in regards to putting down some of my thoughts about, like, what this culture specifically of, it's not the entire population of men. I definitely do not agree with that. But it is a growing subsector of the gender's experience if they have access to social media. There's an entire, like, mindset being presented, and a lifestyle that is truly, like, not sustainable and unhealthy, not just for the individual or for others, but for the individual as well. I think somebody out here fishing this morning. Yeah, we got some fishers too. It's a lovely day to be fishing this morning. So I think about what kind of effects does that have on us, especially to the impressionable minds that may or may not be able to rationalize and understand the difference between, oh, this is just like a facade being presented, and this is actually like a lifestyle that I want to live. And I'd also be interested in, just hear me out, but I'd also be interested in comparing and talking about how the lack of a menstrual cycle in AMAB individuals is a cause for a lot of potential male disconnect within their bodies, because I think that the cyclical nature of energetic flow and rhythm, without having that kind of potential, like, maintenance and check-in and regulation system within a body, it doesn't give the body a time to really rest. And I think that men don't understand the concept of literal biological rest because they don't have something like that inside their system that causes them to rest and other things. Interesting.